About 25 years ago, back in my DJing days, I became a part of my first community. We were a crazy group of teenage stoners, hippies, DJs, and graffiti writers. A typical 90s clique. One of the original and earliest members of that group was a guy named Martin, who stood out from these odd 30 people as a very vulnerable, loving, yet misunderstood and lost soul. For years, we would spend hours talking at after parties or getting drunk or stoned, and we had this emotional connection based on understanding each other's pain of being in this earthly reality. The New Year's Eve of 1999 was an amazing opportunity to party like it's the end of the world, and I organized a crazy Y2K night at my house inviting everyone. Everyone except Martin and our other friend, because for some unexplained reason, I listened to other friends from that group who told me that these two could be up to no good and ruin the night for everybody else. I have no idea why I listened to them and why I didn't invite Martin too, but it ended up being the worst thing I ever did to him. And despite us being friends for a few more years afterwards, I never forgave myself for excluding him from that night. We never talked about it, and we parted our ways soon after I moved to the UK. As I started building my career in the corporate world, Martin stayed faithful to our teenage 90s lifestyle and kept on partying, always passionate about our music and becoming a permanent rebel outside of social structures. I would bump into him occasionally when visiting my hometown, but it was gradually more and more difficult to communicate with him as he was slowly getting addicted to alcohol and all kinds of drugs. In recent years, he created a community on Facebook where all of us would talk about music from good old days, reminiscing our freedom and carelessness. And I eventually decided to talk to him the next time I was in my hometown. And when I did, and when we sat down, I realized that his life is now full of sadness and remorse, as he was barely attached to any elements of this reality. I tried to talk to him for a few minutes, but it was almost impossible, and I had to say goodbye, feeling depressed that there isn't anything I can do for him or a friendship. A few months later, he invited everyone to a techno party that was being organized in the neighboring city. And as it wasn't something that I'm interested in anymore, I didn't go. In May of 2022, I received a phone call from one of our friends who told me that Martin was found dead after that party on a bench in a nearby park, and that for 3 months his body was kept in the morgue for criminal investigation and body identifying purposes. It turned out that he partied so much and so often that no one was even looking for him for 3 months, thinking that it's just one of his partying sprees where he's traveling around the country or even around the world and enjoying his drugs and music. He died exactly as he lived. It was painful for us to learn about his death, but it wasn't really a shocker. But for me, the fact that I never really had a chance to explain myself to him was particularly painful, so on my next mushroom trip a few months ago, I decided to deal with it, and Machine Elves allowed me to get in touch with him. As soon as we started our interdimensional communication, I began apologizing for excluding him from that party when we were teenagers 23 years ago. As he was the fourth deceased person I was allowed to talk to using mushrooms, I knew that I can expect an understanding and loving approach to our conversation, and I was not wrong. Full of empathy and compassion, he said, "Don't say sorry to me, say sorry to yourself." And then, in a typical Machine Elf manner, he showed me how I'm easily forgiving others, but somehow I perpetually torture myself with auto-criticism and inner sense of guilt. It was the first time ever that someone made me aware how harsh I am on myself, negatively evaluating my actions and decisions. It was shocking that I was so unforgiving to myself. Visiting the mushroom realms and talking to Machine Elves always automatically puts me in a state of understanding and acceptance, and I never feel any need to blame anyone or anything for what was done to me. It's like forgiveness is a part of a psychedelic package, and the values of 434 represent a mindset where there is no room for holding a grudge. I'm a person who forgives easily, maybe too easily, but it's a part of my personality that was strongly reinforced once I started communicating with the entities who taught me the value of forgiveness. Talking to them allowed me to break down the concept of forgiveness, as this is a rather complex mechanism, but one that is very easy to understand by observing oneself in a psychedelic state when we go back to being our higher spiritual selves. Before I continue, I actually want to ask for your forgiveness myself for such a low number of uploads being the result of my difficult personal situation. I'm aware of my responsibility towards you, and I feel bad for neglecting you. If you haven't seen the last video, just to let you know, I'm going to the United States organizing meetups in 5 different cities, so if you're interested, visit meet.b434.com. I still need to ask you for help with financing this channel, so if you have a moment, please have a look at the video description for all the available methods to donate. You can also schedule a chat or buy merchandise. All links below. Thank you very much for your support. In simplest terms, forgiveness equals 44 values. Love helps you remember that we're here all on the same journey and that love is the currency of this earthly life that pays for and buys everything. It is difficult to be unforgiving in this state of joy and happiness. And hope is a necessary prerequisite to remember that people change and things eventually do get better. But there is more that I learned from machine elves over the years. There is no acceptance and understanding of the other person's wrongful behavior without remembering that we're all one. All made from the same energy, which means we were or eventually will be in a similar position making the same mistakes. It is important to understand that the purpose of this existence is to go through necessary lessons that are being taught by highly skilled teachers who come into our life at the perfect moment, offering us a perfectly calculated dose of pain or discomfort to trigger our development. Controlling our imagination is important too. It is easy to forgive when getting rid of the copy and paste approach made of filling the gaps in our situational knowledge with assumptions. A negative mindset is an unforgiving mindset. High frequency is crucial to accept the flawed nature of human conduct in this realm with love and compassion. It is also very helpful to overcome own anger and sorrow that hold us hostage in a state of unnecessary caution and mistrust. After all, the main obstacle in moving on to forgiveness is our ego that keeps score of who is to blame and who's wrong. So why is forgiveness so important? Forgiving somewhat feels to go against our nature, and it seems that our natural response is to want to make someone pay for what they did to us. But that's how you learn to overcome the low frequency of this reality, and it is crucial to develop this ability as it is closely related to being able to love. Forgiveness is a tool with which you'll learn to understand the nature of this reality where people hurt each other and are wrong way too often. Forgiveness is simply a love measuring tool. Forgiveness is priceless, but it doesn't really cost anything. The benefits are so immense that it almost feels selfish to forgive somebody. It is a sign of strength and courage. Unforgiving attitude is usually a domain of weak people. Any successful human relationship is made of two strong individuals who are able to forgive each other. The act of forgiving doesn't mean admitting that the other person is right. It means freedom. Freedom from resentment, hatred, and bitterness. Forgiveness helps you grow. Animosity and anger make you a smaller person. A mind deprived of mercy and understanding is a horrible prison which paralyzes us and stops us from developing. Holding a grudge is like poisoning yourself in order to harm your enemy. Hating or resenting someone gives us absolutely no benefits. In fact, it gives the other person the power over your health and your happiness. Forgiveness very often is not even a choice but a necessity, as it is the only available medication to heal the wounds. Holding a grudge is also very egocentric. It is about you and your pain. Forgiveness allows you to be compassionate and empathetic because it's no longer about you. It means that you value the other person more than the mistake they made and the pain you had to experience. And if you really want to get back at someone, remember that there is no revenge as efficient as forgiveness. But be quick. You never know how much time you have left to forgive someone. It is never too late as long as it is still possible. Forgiving does not change the past, but it changes its meaning. When you forgive, you're forming new memories of the past, you're creating a new way of thinking about the present, and simultaneously, you're amending the future. So how to forgive? Forgiveness is not something that we do occasionally. It's actually a mindset. It is a liberating method of letting the energy flow freely through you. Making mistakes is human, but being able to forgive means to be the extension of the divine. One of the easiest methods to learn to forgive is simply to imagine how you would behave in the same situation being the other person. Another method would be making a list of all your mistakes of the past and comparing honestly the weight of your own blunders and false steps with what the other person did. The realization can be really shocking sometimes. But mostly it is just a matter of simply overcoming your ego and reaching out to the person who hurt you, describing to them how they made you feel. You know that you have forgiven the moment when there's nothing left to talk about and when you feel sorry for the person who did it, understanding the set of circumstances that led to all of it. You will know you have forgiven when you can happily say, "I'm grateful for this valuable lesson that allowed me to become a better person." Almost everything that's being done to us can be forgiven, but it doesn't mean that it has to be tolerated repeatedly. You're under no obligation to tolerate what people do only because you forgave them in the past. Forgiveness heals, but tolerating abuse hurts. Forgiving doesn't need to equal forgetting. It's okay to let go and to remember at the same time. Although forgiveness can be immediate, Rebuilding trust takes a long time sometimes. As far as love goes, forgiveness is the most difficult task and also carries the biggest risk, but you'll forgive as often and as fast as your ability to love others allows you to. Because to forgive simply means to accept the benefits of being a human. And you will need to do that because similarly to being in contact with psychedelic entities, the moment you go back to the spirit world and you take on your natural energy form, you'll go through the process of life review where you will need to learn about the mistakes that you made. And you won't be judged or trialed, but you will need to be able to forgive yourself. Love 434. I encourage you to use this moment to reach out to whoever you feel you want to forgive now. And before you go, just a reminder that this channel needs your support to survive. Have a look in the video description for all the available methods. Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe and follow. Like this video and share it with everyone you care about. For merchandise, go to shop.b434.com. Leave your email address at news.b434.com. Visit the website of the artist and the musician I featured here. For more info or contact, visit b434.com and join 434's social media on YouTube, Facebook, BitChute, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Reddit, Discord, Telegram, VK, TikTok, Tumblr, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, and a few other ones you can see on the screen now. All links in the video description and at b434.com.